Hello everybody, Ben Rogers here at the Raptors Digest, reacting to some Toronto Raptors news. Obviously it's 5 days left in the trade deadline, and it's been such a chaotic season in terms of the Raptors record, in terms of where people think players are going, in terms of reports. So I'm going to play the segment before we break it down. So, Toronto Raptors inside reporter Michael Grange came out, and he came out on a podcast a couple days ago. He reported that it was almost the Raptors just weren't going to trade Kyle Lowry, and apparently on this podcast he's retracted all of those points and went a couple steps further, saying it's close to inevitable that Norman Powell, the guy that's been carrying the Raptors through this horrible stretch of basketball, keeping us from being completely rock bottom, it's almost close to inevitable that the Toronto Raptors will end up trading Norman Powell. So again, looking at the chat, we got it live here. I'm doing this solo, so I'm going to incorporate the chat a little bit more. A lot of people are saying it's fake news. I hope it is. I'm in agreement, hoping that that's the case. But obviously, Michael Grange is an inside reporter, and he's a guy that does have some insight on this team, has connections in the working. So we're going to react to this, see what the takes are. But I want to lay it out first, because we're going to talk about a bunch of trade scenarios. I'm going to be asking you guys what you guys think. But I don't want to see Norman Powell traded. And yes, I'd like to see something shaken up. Yes, I'd like to see us acquire a center, acquire a guy that can guard in the paint and not allow us to foul Donovan Mitchell on every possession just to keep him from scoring every time down the stretch of a game. But if it's at the cost of a Norman Powell, I don't want it to happen. That's not something I want to see occur. But before I dive into it, obviously I said I'm rocking solo. Ryker's unable to actually get on the pod tonight, but he was able to send in his take. So we'll watch that. We'll check that out together. I'm going to play that if there's no technical difficulties. Let's see it.
Ryker Richard here, reacting to the news that Mr. Blue Collar, Mr. Pull Up to Work every day and drop 20 points consistently, the one and only Norman Powell, he's on the block, and not only is he on the block, but it's inevitable that he's going to get traded by the deadline. I mean, Ben and I were saying something needs to happen because they're going to become a treadmill team, the Toronto Raptors. They're going to be consistently at the middle bottom of the Eastern Conference. So while I'm disappointed to hear this news because he's the only guy that's been a positive of this season, it makes sense. What I want is a package of Norman Powell, Kyle Lowry, plus a pick for one Kristaps Porzingis, Tingus Pingus, Stinky Pinky, Kristaps Porzingis. Bring the man in. I know we have issues on his defense and his health history, but you have him on a 4-year contract. It's almost risk-free. You bring him in, even if he's injured for 2 seasons, you have 2 solid seasons, a legitimate center to pair with a legitimate Pascal Siakam at the 4, OG Anunoby at the 3, Fred VanVleet as natural 1. You would think that Masai Ujiri is able to figure out the rest of the pieces to put a solid team around him. That's my take. I don't hate it. You don't love it, but you don't hate it. Let's make a move. Let's get back into the playoff picture. Cheers.
So that's Ryker's take. That's who he wants to see. Obviously, we're all sort of taking it back. Tingus Pingus, he's a guy that we brought up on multiple occasions on the podcast, specifically with the Kyle Lowry take. Obviously, their salaries match. If we have to give up Lowry and Norman Powell to acquire Kristaps, it's a tougher decision. This was sort of debated on our podcast a couple days ago, but I have a bunch of trade scenarios already cooked up, just so to keep it within the theme of Ryker's take. I'm going to try and get that one up now. I'm sneaking them out. I'm not sure which button is which, but I devised this one earlier in terms of Tingus Pingus, and we'll talk about specifically Norman Powell deals, because again, Lowry was brought up in this, but Kyle Lowry, Norman Powell, and Aaron Baines for Kristaps Porzingis and Dwight Powell does work out. That does work out. It works out on the trade machine. I got it thrown up here. It's tough. It's a tough situation because you look at a guy like Kristaps Porzingis. Ryker brought up the injury history, the question marks, but he is an all-star caliber player, and the Raptors feel like they're going to lose Norman Powell, lose Kyle Lowry. He's a player I wouldn't mind seeing them get back, but I think that's a high cost. It's a very high cost with a guy that has too much risk, and The reasoning, and Michael Grange, to build off the point that he made earlier, he said that the Raptors organization knows no matter what trade they currently make, they're probably not going to get over the Brooklyn Nets, and they want to be careful about how they make these moves because they know they're giving up their core, and this could be their last chance of acquiring a star, like in the same vein that they traded for Kawhi. So maybe the Kristaps Porzingis things works out and it's a retooling year. You really build around and get the core to work on the Siakam, OG, and whoever you bring in, whether that's Kristaps or someone else. So I do see the logic behind it. I don't think I'd give up Lowry and Norman Powell for Tingus Pingus, Stinky Pinky, as everyone's been calling him on our chat. As much of a Porzingis fan as I am, I think that would be tough. I think that would be a tough thing to look at, but I don't know. That's one of the scenarios that Ryker brought up. If we're trading Lowry, we're trading Norman Powell, I think we got to get more depth. Obviously, we need a more stable big man. We need more pieces there. But I have a few trades, and the keyboard might be at work. No, it's all good. So that first trade proposal, I flashed that one a couple times. But one team that's been very interested, very active on the markets, and has been very strong currently in the Eastern Conference standings is the New York Knicks. And they're a team that has been in the talks. They want Lonzo Ball, who's been reportedly not on the block, but he's been a guy people have been talking about since he's a restricted free agent, hasn't been extended by the New Orleans Pelicans. LeVar Ball, he's been talking that Lonzo doesn't like it in New Orleans. So the Knicks, they're after Lonzo. They've made it known that they're interested in Oladipo. So if Norman Powell it's inevitable that he's getting traded, right? If it's inevitable, I could see the Knicks wanting in. And I'm going to start with the more reasonable, so to speak, trade machines. It's tough to really devise a reasonable trade machine, but I'm throwing it on the screen. And Mitchell Robinson and Frank Ntilikina for Norman Powell. And I look at this, and I'm like the chat right now. This is a tough look for the Toronto Raptors. Mitchell Robinson, yes, he's a young guy. He blocks shots. He's able to guard around the rim, but he doesn't really do it for me if you're trading away a guy that's currently averaging 20 points per game, almost 30 points per game in his last stretch of 10, 12 games, and is shooting 45% from the three-point line. Norman Powell's value is at a ridiculous level. So I'll throw it back up on the screen. Mitchell Robinson, Frank Ntilikina, they're two young guys, and if we're going the fade for Cade route, if we're trying to get younger and get those young talent, I wouldn't mind those guys coming back, but I'm not on board. I'm not on board with that one. That's something that it's cool in theory, but I think we could get more out of a Norman Powell trade if it were to occur. And even though Ntilikina, he's been all right for the Knicks this year, they do have different players. If I were to make a trade with the Knicks, I'd like to see R.J. Barrett in that deal, but I don't know how realistic that is. Obviously being a number, I think it was 3 pick a couple seasons back in that Zion draft, and has shown a lot of potential, even if it hasn't really come fully to fruition now recently. So that's the take right there. I have a second one. I'm going to be looking for your take. So while you're in the chat, we're going to have the alarm in this podcast as well. So be ready. Concoct your trades for when I'm looking for them specifically. But I made a couple on my own as the trade came out before I filmed this or before I went live on this. But the second one, it's another trade I think would be reasonable. Like it would be reasonable to go down for the Toronto Raptors is Norman Powell and Aaron Baines for Myles Turner. Now, Myles Turner is a guy that is getting ridiculous he's blocking all the shots this season. He knocks down threes. He's playing a bit out of position for the Indiana Pacers. And he's a guy that would certainly fix our hole, fix the positional hole we have at the center position. He's a guy that could come in, immediately be your starting center, immediately get you a couple blocks per game, a bunch of rebounds, and protect the paint in those end-game stretches, and be a big man, which is so rare in today's NBA, where you don't have to put him on the bench down the stretch of a game. Myles Turner could be on the court, he'd be a solid rim protector, but again, in the same vein as Mitchell Robinson would be enticing, Ntilikina would be enticing, Turner would be enticing, but if you're giving up Norman Powell, 45% from the three-point line, if you're giving up his buckets, his slashing ability, I want more than Myles Turner. And yes, we'd also have to give up Baines in this as well, who's been our insurance pylon. He's been the guy that we can look to as insurance. He's popping up right in front of me now. But I'd like to see more. Obviously, to make the money work, we'd have to maybe if TJ Warren, especially with his injuries and we're focused on next year, if TJ Warren was included and obviously Norman Powell would take up that position, that'd be something I'm interested in. Obviously Bjorkgren, former assistant coach of the Toronto Raptors, who I'd assume thinks highly of Norman Powell, might be interested in giving up those assets to acquire Norm, because I know the Pacers are on a playoff push and they're always trying to be as good as possible to make the money, make the revenue, the playoff revenue as a small market team. So it's a deal I could see going down. I'd like to see more assets added to a point where it might become unrealistic as a Raptors fan, but again, we gotta throw these trades out if it's inevitable that Norman Powell's getting traded. There's a lot more people in the chat. I just want to reiterate, Michael Grange came out and said that it's close to inevitable that a Norman Powell trade is going to occur, so that's what we're talking about here today. Obviously, we're all hoping it's fake news, and Grange has been on the money with some stuff and not on the money with others, so hopefully it's fake news, because I do not want Norman Powell to go, but we got to take everything into account. And the next trade, this is the trade that if Lonzo Ball, I brought him up earlier in the podcast, is on the market, and we'd have to make some other moves, specifically with Kyle Lowry, maybe even a Fred if it's for a superstar or something. This might be the unrealistic one, even though he's on the trading block. I'm throwing it up on the screen now. Norman Powell and Stanley Johnson to the New Orleans Pelicans for Lonzo Ball and Jackson Hayes. Now, I know what you're thinking. What does this do to this team? Lonzo Ball, he's trash. He's got this narrative. He's got a funky jump shot. But no, Lonzo Ball, after his poor bubble and his poor start to the season, has been a beast this year. He's knocking down threes at a high clip. He's shooting the ball. He's being a great facilitator. He's a young player. And there's always that potential you can recruit the definite rookie of the year, LaMelo Ball, in the future if you acquire him. But Lonzo Ball, he's a player I wouldn't mind bringing into the mix. And then Jackson Hayes, he's a guy that I think is being underutilized on the New Orleans Pelicans, playing behind Steven Adams. He's had some, especially as of late, he's shown a lot more promise. He's obviously had an inconsistent first year and a half to his career. But again, another lottery pick, 2 years. And you make this deal if you're going in the younger direction. If you're trying to make a move that gets you younger, it gets you younger pieces to show more potential. I think it's a piece that would be nice. Obviously, if this deal were to go down, we'd have a logjam at point guard. Lonzo's a natural point guard. Fred's a natural point guard. Lowry's a natural point guard. And for Malachi Flynn's dad says he's an all... Malachi Flynn is a superstar point guard. So we have 4 guys right there that should all be playing point guard position. And it'd be tough. More moves would likely have to be made if that were the case. So maybe a Lowry to Philadelphia. And in that podcast, Michael Grange also brought up that if we're going to blow it all up, Philadelphia is likely the place for Kyle Lowry, even though it's not off the table he'll get traded, but it's not going to happen, so to speak, like reports that came out earlier. But things change with the wind on Kyle Lowry on these sorts of things. So I would be happy with if out of the ones I've seen so far, Lonzo Ball and Jackson Hayes, they get me a bit more excited. Obviously, you're giving up a Stanley Johnson in that case, which is tough because I think he's had an underrated season this year. So shout out Stanley Johnson, shout out Norman Powell. It'll be tough for him to go. Again, none of these trades so far I'd like to see happen. I'm consistently reiterate that I don't think we should trade Norman Powell. I think we give him the bag the offseason, ensure that he's going to stay, and then go from there. That's the route I want to go. But we're going to continue with these trade scenarios. And the next one, we've already brought this one up, sort of talked about it in the Ryker situation when Ryker wanted Tingus Pingus. But Lowry, Norman Powell, Aaron Baines for Kristaps and Dwight Powell. I won't talk about this too much because we've already dove into that a little bit. But Tingus Pingus, Stinky Pinky, I want a superstar caliber player. I want that big name. I want that guy that can come in and change the direction and stuff. But if you're giving up Norman Powell, if you're giving up Normie, if you're giving up Lowry, even if they're going to go, Porzingis just might be a bit of a risk for me. And he's so divided amongst Raptors fans. He's so divided amongst the league. It's really hard to tell what his true value actually is right now with all the injuries. But he was a core piece to almost upsetting the Clippers in the first round last season. I just look at a core. I look at a core of OG Anunoby, Siakam, Porzingis, and Fred. That can do damage in the Eastern Conference if they're very healthy. Obviously, it's easier to find a stronger shooting guard than it is a center, so I feel like that hole can be filled. but I don't want it to happen. I'm not talking myself into it. I don't want a Kristaps and Porzingis for Lowry and Norm and Aaron Baines. I'd want something back, even though Dwight Powell would be nice as well. So it's interesting. It is what it is. And my final trade scenario that I'm going to bring up specifically, I have it on the screen here, probably the least attractive out of all the ones I've seen, but maybe people are bought in because it's Norman Powell for JaVale McGee and Isaac Okoro. So that's an interesting deal right there, as JaVale McGee, Isaac Okoro, those are two guys that really bring it for you on the defensive end. And the Cavaliers, they've come into talks with Norman Powell, or they've been trying to trade Andre Drummond specifically and JaVale McGee, but Drummond to a greater extent because I assume they expect him to have more value. But they've been talking about trading Drummond, and reports have even come out that the Toronto Raptors turned down a trade of Norman Powell for Andre Drummond. So I don't think that's going to happen. But if the Cavaliers are interested in Norman Powell, which I think, and there's been more, I'm bringing out all the reports. I don't have the specific sources, but we've been bringing them up over the course of the last couple of weeks. But apparently there's been, I think this is Zach Lowe. Apparently multiple teams have come in and inquired about Norman Powell, and the Cavs have certainly been one of those teams. If the Cavs are interested, I could see this deal happening. And I'll throw it back up on the screen because I kind of diverted from it a bit. But JaVale McGee, he solves your problems as a rim protector. He gets you the shot blocks. He stays within the lane. We won't have a situation like at the end of the game in last game where we played the Utah Jazz and Donovan Mitchell was just getting to the rim at will and able to score on anyone. We had to foul him every possession. But the real piece that intrigues me in this deal is Isaac Okoro. Obviously, a very young player for the Cleveland Cavaliers. He was a lottery pick for that team this season, and he's getting a lot of run. He's still a bit raw on the offensive end. He's averaging about 8 points per game, but he's a guy, he has a promising three-point shot. He's a promising offensive skill set. He's a bit raw, similar to OG Anunoby, but he's a phenomenal defender. He's a lockdown guy. He's been an integral piece. He's playing over Cedi Osman. He's super young. I think this is a deal that maybe if a pick was attached to it, if we had some other asset attached to it, I'd be most comfortable with. Again, none of these trades I'm looking at and I'm saying, get me that trade. I want to see that. I don't want to see these deals happen. But that's the one where I think it's underrated value for a guy such as Norman Powell. And those are my 5 trades that I've brought up, sort of concocted. Obviously, in today's NBA, it could be a 3-team deal. It could be a 4-team deal. Those get too crazy when you're doing the trade machine 5-10 minutes before a podcast. I sort of talked about the things that came to my mind. But this is this is a perfect podcast to really get this alarm out. So get in the comment section right now. Get in the section because I want to hear from you guys, especially without Ryker here. I need someone to bounce some ideas off. So I'm sounding it off. Woo! 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 Siren noises. Woo! That's right. The final alarm has gone off. So I want to hear from you guys. I want to hear your takes on what should happen. Danny's in the chat saying we need someone like Kawhi Leonard. I would love to see Kawhi Leonard traded for Norman Powell. That's the one trade I'd be very attracted to. I'd be very into in that case. But I'll get the Norman Powell gifs in the background as we do this as well, so there's something visual to look at. But Raptors versus Cavs tomorrow, so that deal could go down. Norm for Cat, shout out Desi Poppy. I'm gonna try and pronounce people's names in this, but Desi Poppy, Norm for Cat. I want Karl Anthony Towns, and if he's on the block, if there's a case where we could come in and finesse him, I think he is remarkably underrated right now, especially with his current injuries, everything that's gone on in his situation. Obviously, people have been saying, there's been talks already that he's a player that is the next superstar to demand a trade. The Timberwolves just brought in his friend D'Angelo Russell, who really Cat and Towns haven't been able to play together that much. So it's a situation where maybe something could happen. If the Lowry, the Porzingis deal that we brought up for Lowry, Norm, and Baines or something, I think that could work out for Karl Anthony Towns. I don't know if they'd accept it, but it is what it is. Looking back at the chat here now, Pingus for Lowry. Shout out Rocco. No, I don't know how I feel about it. Norm and picks for RJ Barrett. Would the Raptors have to give up picks if we're getting RJ Barrett? I don't know if that's the. It's tough. RJ Barrett's young. My homerisms are coming out. Yes, we probably have to give up picks. That'd be a guy I wouldn't mind getting, especially he's on a smaller contract. Trade Lowry for Cat. Yeah, I'm all in on Cat. If we can get Cat. That's my opinion on that there. But then we trade Norm for Bismack Biyombo. Get Bismack Biyombo back in this house. I agree with that. Norman assets for RJ Barrett. Norman a first for Victor Oladipo. Oladipo. Throwback name for the Toronto Raptors. The digest. You can go back to videos we made in the off season saying how potential Fred for Depot sign and trade might be in the works if Fred's trying to get too much of a bag. And the one question about Depot is, firstly, he's not healthy. He's not consistently healthy. Even with the Rockets this year, he's been in and out of the lineup. Secondly, is he better than Norman Powell? That's a real question. Thirdly, he's an established all-star, so he's probably looking for more money than Norman Powell. So for those reasons, I'd rather keep Norman Powell, give him the bag, and rock that out. Norm for Adebayo. Ishan, I'd love to see that happen, but it's not going to happen. Keep Norm, Boucher, and OG and Van Vliet and trade and P and trade everyone else. Fair enough. The bench has been tough. Vucevic, that's a name that, that guy is super underrated. Doesn't bring it to you on the defensive end that much, but isn't horrific down there. But certainly would solve a lot of our troubles on the offensive end. Be able to hit some threes, be able to score in the mid-range. The cap, we'd have to give up. Nikola Vucevic is around $30 million. Norm is at 11, so we probably have to give up some extra pieces. And if the Magic are trading Vucevic, I guess Norman Powell may fit their timeline a bit better, but it's interesting. Norm, Baines, and McCaw for Vucevic. Yeah, Adrian DiVincenzo. I think that's how I pronounce that. Maybe not. That'd be an interesting deal there. Norm and Boucher for and a pick for Lonzo. No, that is not. Kyle for bench filler. I don't wanna see some bench filler in for Kyle Lowry, Jerry, and Vasco 98. Even though the Rudy Gay trade, the bench filler trade we had in the past did turn around our franchise, so maybe there's something there. Keep the core. I agree. Andrew Wiggins for Norman Powell and too far from something. King of Hall of Fame kicks. King's Hall of Fame of kicks. Wiggins is nice. He's got a massive contract. We'd have to give up some assets along with Norman Powell. I don't know if we're trading Norman, we want to eat up all that money, and I'm not sure that Wiggins is better than Norman Powell. He provides a lot of the stuff that OG provides, so I don't know if Wiggins is really that person to bring in. Norman picks for Zach LaVine. I think if you're trading Norm, that's an upward move. That's an upward move. Giving up picks might be tough, but Zach LaVine is better than Norman Powell, so maybe that's a deal that if it could get done, I'd like to see. So Lowry for Simmons, there's no way that's happened unless it's Bill Simmons, but the Raptors aren't going to do that. Alex Superman Johnson, Danny Loveless is going wild in the chat. Get Superman Johnson in here. But Baines and a bench player for Thompson. Obviously, we made a whole video regarding Tristan Thompson. Lavi XX, I think that's how you pronounce it. Marvin Bagley would be cool too. They got a lot of cool people. Udoka Azubuike could be I've seen a little bit of him. He's pretty nice. Alex 401. That's a lot of stuff. No to Wiggins. I agree. Mike Chafe. Big facts there. Norm, Baines, and Stanley for Vucevic. Again, Vucevic is another guy I'd really like. I think he's underrated, but that's a cool thing. Canal. I apologize if I butchered that name. Kyle for Gornon and someone. I don't know who that is. I don't want to see Kyle Lowry go to the Heat, but unless we're getting back Duncan or Precious or someone like that. Marvin Bagley, James Fralick. Not for Norm. I don't want to trade Bagley for Norm, but if we could get Bagley for not Norm, that would definitely be a nice pickup. Serge Ibaka, shout out Just Jake, no last name, Just Jake. Serge Ibaka, if we traded Norman Powell straight up for Serge Ibaka, what are we doing? What are we doing at that point? We let him walk for nothing, and then we'll just have to sign him again. I think that's whack. And there's the name we brought up. Obviously, I'm shouted out. What am I doing? What am I doing on this pod? I got the things going crazy. We're on the road to 20K subscribers. I'm plugging it here. I'm plugging our videos. I'm plugging all that stuff. Forgetting to plug, get in the like section if you want to see something happen, but you think trading Norm is whack, right? But we're on the road to 20K subscribers. Subscribe. I'm forgetting to plug stuff on this. What am I doing? I'm slacking on the job. We're 30 minutes into a podcast, and I'm forgetting to do this stuff. But DeMar DeRozan, he's a name that's been brought up. I'm plugging our past videos. That was the big takeaway we had from our interview Josh had on the streets of Toronto. People wanted to see DeMar DeRozan back. And Norman Powell for DeMar DeRozan. It's a situation, we've had this debate at times in the past where it's, Norman Powell, he shoots the three, he's a better defender and all these sorts of things. But the level of play that DeMar DeRozan has brought to the San Antonio Spurs this season, it's a whole nother level. He's making passes, he's making drives, he's still a capable three-point shooter, I believe, in my opinion. We saw that just Pop doesn't want him shooting those. The way he drives, the way he does sort of things, man, I'd like to see DeMar DeRozan back. From Norman Powell, again, we'd have to make the money work, which would be tough. DeMar's also an unrestricted free agent as well, so I don't know if I do it, but it's tough. Kyle Lowry, don't spam too much. I appreciate the section, though. If you like if you think we should keep Norm, and if you don't think we should keep Norm, get in the like section, debate it out, fight it out your way. But Stanley Johnson, Lavi XX, double shout out for you. I think a few people have said it. Jackie Boy as well. John Collins is a guy that we're trading Norman Powell for. I don't know. He's a player that has shown so much promise. He's a big, not a center, but a big man that can sort of get things going, right? Can get the ball rolling, get scoring in the paint and these sorts of things. He's a stretch big man, but he's been a bit underwhelming in my opinion for a guy that we'd have to give a max contract to. And if we're gonna give the bag out to someone, because he is looking for a bag. John Collins, he's looking for a max contract. The Atlanta Hawks would not be trying to move him if he wasn't looking for a bag. So I don't think the Raptors should make that move if we're just going to pay that money to John Collins rather than Norman Powell. And you have to look at it like this too. Norman Powell's got a Raptors tattoo on the UTG. He's got the Raptors tattoo, the trophy tattoo there. He's a loyal guy. If Kyle Lowry goes, he's going to be the longest tenured Raptor for this team. Shout out Harsamir, I apologize if I messed that name up. You subscribed. Everyone subscribed. If you subscribe to the channel, I'll give you a little shout out at some point if I spot it, right? But we're on that road to 20k subscribers. But yeah, I don't want to see John Collins if it's straight up for Norman Powell. That's my deal. That's my opinion. But Baines and a package for LaMarcus Aldridge is expiring. For win now mode, obviously I do not want to see Norman Powell included in a package for LaMarcus Aldridge, but Baines, I could live with. I'd like to see that deal happen. Stanley in a second for JaVale McGee. Agreed. Get us JaVale McGee if it's on the cheap, if it's on the low. I think that could be a key to turning around the season. Look at what he did for the Lakers last year. Him and Dwight Howard completely changed the style. I'm going crazy right now. Elbow jumper can't be stopped on offense. Plug and play. I don't even know who you're talking about, Jonathan, but I appreciate the jargon there. A McCaw and a first for Mo Bamba. Mo Bamba, he's a meme. He's a player. He'd probably get a lot of jersey sales. I could see something like that happening. It would be a cool deal. Obviously, he'd fix our rim protection problem because that's what he does. But it is what it is. But Norm for Kelly and James Wiseman. No way the Warriors give up James Wiseman like that. Norm for Bagley and Harrison Barnes. Ooh. A lot of money up in Harrison Barnes, but I don't mind that deal. Do I mind it? It depends how high you are on Marvin Bagley. He's shown some promise, but he's shown some not promise, so I don't know if that's the case. If the Raps trade Norman Powell for a good player, we're seeing a lot of names. I'm seeing a lot of names be reiterated at this point. Jennifer, Norm for John Collins. I'm not big on that, but I wouldn't be devastated if that were to happen. Trade anyone, the best player attainable. Agreed. Like, if we're going to make a move for Norman Powell, that's what we should do. Jonathan Sakuo, I'm bad at names, that's what I am. But Boogie for free. I've been on the Boogie bandwagon for a while. Get him in here, even though he struggles a bit on defense. Your boy Billie Jean. I've been talking about Kristaps the whole way. That's what Ryker wants. But I don't know if it will happen. We probably have to give up Lowry as well, so that would tough. And Lakers winning the chip. It's hopefully LeBron hurt his ankle today. He's out indefinitely, so hopefully he comes back healthy. Norm for Kevin Garnett. We're getting wild here. Before we sign it off here, we're at the 30-minute mark, close to it. This is where we spam. This is where the spam should happen, okay? I'm going to look at the chat. I want the eye test. Either say yes in the chat if you want to see Norman Powell traded, assuming we get a piece for him, assuming it's not a garbage deal back, or say no if you're not about it. I wanna see that chat. Norm for Prime MJ, I like that. But for the next 30 seconds, I want to see that chat spam. We got 214 concurrent viewers in here, but that's I don't know how delayed I am on this pod, but that's what I want to see. If you're watching this after the video, just peep into the live chat, see what people are saying. But Lonzo and Fred VanVleet with OG and Pascal, that would be super nice. We got the no's. Okay, they're all coming now. No. That's what I've seen no yeses. People do not want to see Norman Powell traded, and you know what, people of the chat, I am in complete agreement with you. They keep coming in. Rowdy, Aguirre, Salva Khan, Barry Allen, trade yes from Lavi XX. They want to see Norman Powell traded. Yes, if we're really contending this. Okay, we get a few yeses. We got a few no's. Kevin Garnett would be good. Definitely Stanley Obeng. F no, that's what people are saying. No. Okay. That's where we're at. If you see the chat, I'm a bit delayed. I don't know how delayed it is for other people if you're watching this later, but you can see it there. The overall consensus is no. They do not want to see a trade occur. So I'm in that boat. I've said that from the jump. I do not want to see a Norman Powell trade occur if it's going to be for the players we brought up. Again, if Karl Anthony Towns is involved, bring it here. If we can get Kristaps Porzingis, I'm on the fence. I talked myself into it a little bit, but then I'm off the fence about it. So it's tough. Lonzo Ball, this one's my favorite trade, I think, looking at it, assuming we can move Lowry, move some stuff out there. So it is what it is. It's a weird situation. I'm sure there's going to be lots of reports, lots of news, lots of stuff happening over the next couple of podcasts. So everyone in the chat, 200 people in here, everyone that's going to be watching this later, appreciate you. You guys are the best. I'm plugging it again because we've been slacking on plugging this stuff. Obviously, it's tough with the Raptors being tough. We're all just sad and all that, but we're on the road to 20K subscribers. Tell your friends about the channel. We had a week where we were getting 60, 50, 70. I worded those numbers differently, but a week there, the Raptors were peaking up the season. It was the best they played, and the Raptors Digest is just getting subscribers. So I think that's not correlation, that's causation. So tell your friends if you want the Raptors to be good. If you don't want to see a trade, tell your friends about the trade for Norman Powell that's bad. If you don't want to see a bad Norman Powell trade, hit in the like section, get subscribed to the channel. Ryker and I are going to play a heated game of one-on-ones. At the time, we hit 20K subscribers, but again, Ryker's only in Newfoundland for so long, so it's got to happen soon. We're on that road, and you don't want to miss those. Those games are pretty exciting. Ryker and I both played some provincial basketball back in the day, so we've been plugging it, we've been sneaking it, so definitely if you want to see that, like all this stuff, trade Ben Rogers for Ryker. Nah, we a duo. We got that dynamic duo cooking, but again, you guys are the best. Hop in the like section. Hopefully these rumors, hopefully it's fake news. Hopefully the Michael Grange quotes, they just get banished to the like section. But I'm sure we'll see a lot. But you guys are the best for making this far. Check out the Instagram, the Twitter, the TikTok. TikTok dances, right? Getting that there. The TikToks have been popping. Interview. We're really plugging that interview on the streets because people really seem to like it, but the algorithm hasn't really picked it up. So definitely check that out if you're interested. Finally, RaptorsDigest.ca. The best articles, the best writing all there. So you guys are the best to make this far. I'm going to stop rambling.